Okay, this is, I don't know if this is surprising or it's not surprising, but we have another audio leak of Donald Trump pressuring Georgia officials to find him the votes that he needs. Donald Trump's call to the investigator came several days before the call with Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. You'll remember in the past, we had leaked audio of Trump on the phone with Raffensperger and others saying, I just need 11,780 votes. This new audio is from a different call where it was a few days prior to the Raffensperger call. Donald Trump is on the phone with Francis Watson, who's the chief investigator in the Georgia Secretary of State's office. We are going to listen to it. I'm realizing I don't even have my headphone in, so let me put that in so I can listen to it along with you. And I'm getting all of my cables all wound up here. Let's take a listen together. All right. New call. Okay. New call. Let's take a listen to this. Here we go. And let's make sure we aren't muted. And off we go. All right. Let's take a listen.
It's very interesting. So I won Florida in a record number, Ohio in a record, Texas in a record,
right.
Alabama by 40 points, and I won everything but Georgia. And I won Georgia. I know that by a lot. And
I won Georgia by a lot, he says.
People know it, and something happened there. I mean, something bad happened, and I hope you join that because if you. I hope you're going back 2 years as opposed to just checking, one against the other, because that would just be sort of a signature check that didn't mean anything. But if you go back 2 years, and if you can get to Fulton, you're going to find things that are going to be unbelievable. The dishonesty that we've heard from them.
Right.
Just good sources, really good sources. But Fulton is the mother lode, as the expression goes, Fulton County.
Right.
And,
well, Mr. President,
you don't want to say,
right? I appreciate your comments, and I can assure you that our team and the GBI that we're only interested in the truth and finding finding the information that's based on the facts. And we've been working 12, 16-hour days, and we're working through.
Trump likes that. Working for what exactly is not clear, but
through it, and so I can assure you that. And I do appreciate you calling. I know that you're a very, very busy, very important man, and I'm very honored that you called. And and quite frankly, I'm shocked, and that you would take time to do that. But
well, he's trying to steal an election, right? I mean, this is his last. He thinks he needs this.
I'm very appreciative.
No, Mark asked me to do it. He thinks you're great, and it's just you have the most important job in the country right now, because if we win Georgia, first of all, if we win, you're going to have 2 wins. They're not going to win right now. They're down because the people of Georgia are so angry at what happened to me. They know I won by hundreds of thousands of votes. It wasn't close.
So now Trump is not even claiming. Remember, later, it seems that between this call and the next call, he believes he won by hundreds of thousands, and maybe he even thinks that there would be something done by these officials to give him such a big win. Within days, clearly his perspective has changed, because he's just talking about, I just need 11,780. And his expectations are tempered by the next call.
And Alabama, where they go, because I won South Carolina in a record, Alabama in a record, Florida in a record.
Imagine calling an official in Georgia and just bragging about your wins in other states, as if that has anything to do with what this woman's job is here.
I won Florida by 600,000 or 700,000 votes.
I think he only won Florida by a couple 100,000. Like, everything is a lie, an exaggeration.
Happened before with a Republican. And with all the money they spent, you heard all about these guys going down spending a fortune. And we won Texas by a record. Texas was won by the biggest number ever. And it didn't. And Ohio, of course, you know about that. That was won by 9 points or so.
He's the president, and he's bragging to a county, a state official in Georgia about his margins in other states. This is the president of the United States calling this person and bragging in this way.
Something, and it's all of it. Iowa. I mean, and it never made sense, and they dropped ballots. They dropped all these ballots. Stacey Abrams, really, really terrible. I mean, just a terrible thing.
Registering people to vote, getting people out. It's horrible what she did.
And I will say this, if and when, hopefully this will show, because if you go back 2 years or 4 years, you're going to see it's a totally different signature. But hopefully, I will, when the right answer comes out, you'll be praised. I mean, I don't...
When you give us the right answer, Francis, which is that I won, people will love you.
I don't know why, they made it so hard. They will be praised. People will say, great, because that's what it's about, that ability to check and to make it right. Because everyone knows it's wrong. There's just no way. They had people in Georgia, for instance, that won, and I was way ahead of them, and they won because of me. I pulled them, they call it coattails, right? And
so this went on for 4 more minutes, and it's just more Trump insisting he won. And to her credit, Frances Watson doesn't really concede much at all. We then just have, as a reminder, the clips from the previous call, which took place later, the later call, which we learned about some time ago. Here's one clip from that.
The people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated, because the 2,236 and absentee ballots, they're all exact numbers that were done by accounting firms, law firms, etc. And even if you cut them in half, and cut them in half again, it's more votes than we need.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
You're right. Say we've recalculated 2,200 ballots. It's enough for us to win. And that was Brad Raffensperger telling Trump that his data was simply wrong. On that call, Trump continued making false statements, trying to convince them to find votes, claiming he won by hundreds of thousands, bringing up more conspiracy theories.
I won this election by hundreds of thousands of votes. There's no way I lost Georgia. There's no way. We won by hundreds of thousands of votes. I'm just going by small numbers. When you add them up, they're many times the 11,000. But I won that state by hundreds of thousands of votes. Now, do you think it's possible that they shredded ballots in Fulton County? Because that's what the rumor is. And also that Dominion took out machines. That Dominion is really moving fast to get rid of their machinery. Do you know anything about that? Because that's illegal.
This is Ryan, Germany. No, Dominion has not moved any machinery out of Fulton County. We're having.
Well, but have they moved? Have they moved the inner parts of the machines and replaced them with other parts?
No.
You sure, Ryan?
I'm sure, Mr. President.
And what about the ballots? The shredding of the ballots. Have they been shredding ballots?
No.
The only investigation that we have into that, they have not been shredding any ballots. There was an issue in Cobb County where they were doing normal, office shredding, getting rid of old stuff, and we investigated that.
So Trump just desperately grasping at straws. And then remember that in the end, even if he had somehow flipped Georgia, it wouldn't have made a difference because it would not have been enough electoral votes. Just one more clip from the old phone call, which happened after the one we learned about today. Trump suggesting that this is actually bad for Georgia officials. They might be liable if they don't find a way for Trump to get the win.
The ballots are corrupt, and you're going to find that they are, which is totally illegal. It's more illegal for you than it is for them because you know what they did and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense, and you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk. All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes.
So Trump there kind of implicitly threatening the lawyers and officials. If you let it happen, you could be criminally liable. So a totally criminal bully president, another recording from another conversation coming out almost 2 months post Trump leaving office. What will we know in another month? What will we know in a month after that? What we are learning is that the authoritarians who tried to overthrow the election were far more brazen than we previously thought. I don't think we've come even close to hearing it all yet. And when all is said and done, the biggest evidence is probably yet to come. They're getting access to emails and texts, which will give us the context and planning. Like this call, these two calls, they don't just happen. There's likely a paper trail about how this call came to be and about the intentions for these calls. And we may eventually learn about that. We'll have more coverage of this on the show Instagram at David Pakman Show, and make sure you're following me on Instagram at david.pakman. If you are anything like me, you probably aren't thrilled with the idea of going into a doctor's office right now. And thankfully, there's a practical and affordable way to take control of your health and get personalized care from the comfort of your home. It's a service called SteadyMD. They're one of our sponsors. You take a quiz, you get matched with a licensed primary care physician who understands your health needs. You have a 1-hour video call with your new doctor. You establish a meaningful relationship with them. And after that, your doctor is available to you anytime by text, phone, or video chat. This is not a random doctor on call. Each doctor at SteadyMD has a limited number of patients, so they actually have time to listen to you. You get the personal attention that you deserve. They can do almost everything an in-person doctor can do: perform medical evaluations, talk to you about health concerns, send prescriptions to your home or local pharmacy, and anything they can't do online, they'll quickly set you up with an in-person provider to do, things like blood tests, as an example. You don't need insurance. It's only $99 a month with no other fees or copays. There are so many practical advantages to using SteadyMD for primary care, and it's also so much more affordable. Go to steadymd.com/Pakman to take the free quiz, see which doctor is right for you. I took their quiz. They matched me with a doctor who specializes in my particular health needs and situation. The doctor they gave me is a really perfect fit for me and my medical needs. There's no risk, no commitment to get started. Just click the link right underneath this video.